Hello everyone, my name is Ralph. I'm from the CML engineering team, and in this video I'm going to explain how to create policies to deploy CML in AWS. There has been some confusion, and I have to admit that probably the documentation is not 100% accurate there, or at least it leaves some room for interpretation, and therefore I wanted to create this video to go from A to Z to show you exactly what needs to be put into policy on AWS to make cloud CML working, or CML in the cloud working. For this, I've created a new AWS account, and on this account it's pretty much empty. So it doesn't have any users, doesn't have any policies, nothing. So I'm starting from scratch. I've logged in using the root account for this using the root user for this account, and as you can tell here, there's no users, there's no groups, and nothing. So I'm currently logged into or using IAM, the authentication management tool here, which is accessible from over here. I've marked these as favorites so that I have quick access, and I've also created a bucket, and in that bucket, so my CML bucket here, and in that bucket there is simply one file that I'm using for testing purposes. But back to IAM. So what we want to do is we want to create some policy that allows us to spin up CML in the cloud programmatically. So for that to work, we need policies, we need a role, and we need a user. As I said, currently I'm logged into AWS using my root user account. So the first thing that I want to do here is I want to create a user group. It's just the best practice, and I'm calling this guy Terraform. And I'm attaching some policy to this Terraform user, so which is EC2. And there is the one that we want to have, which is called full access. This is the one. So that's the one that we want to attach to this group. And now it's defined. We want to add more permissions to it. So what we want to do is we want to go in and create a policy as the next step that we can attach to this group that allows us access to our bucket. And that policy is being used both for command line access on my laptop, for example, to upload files, but also for the EC2 instance that runs CML. So therefore, we create this policy object in here. So we are asked for what service this is going to be. So it's for S3, and now we can specify what is permissible, what is allowed. We could paste in the JSON, but I'm going through the things that are needed here in the UI here. So what we want to allow is we want to list the bucket, like what is in the bucket. We want to allow get bucket object. Where is that? Get object. So this one, and we want to allow put object, this one. So which is basically list, read, and write elements in there. And then we want to be very specific. We want to specify our bucket name, which is my CML bucket in this case. And we want to specify any resource. No, no. We want to have my CML bucket, and then add this. And we want to add objects in my bucket, my CML bucket, and we want to allow, I did the same error again, my CML bucket, and we want to allow any object name. So this is what it should look like. So my CML bucket and anything that is in there with the asterisk here. So we have now specified this, and then we say next, and we need to provide it a name, and that is going to be S3, or let's say CML S3 access. Bam. Create policy. So now we have our policy. And now we are going to our user group again and go and attach this to our user group here as well. And say add permission, attach policy, and this one, add permission. So now our group has the permission S3 CML, access to our S3 bucket and access to EC2. Now there's one thing that we want to do in addition, which is we need to attach or we need to permit it to pass a role. But for that, we also have to create the role first. So we go into roles here. There's 2 roles predefined from AWS, but we want to create a new one. And that role is associated with an AWS service. So that is EC2. So we select EC2 down here. Click on next. And then we select this permission or this policy. And then we click on next down here. And we provided a name. And this is our role that is being referenced in the Terraform configuration locally. S3 access for EC2. And yeah, and this allows EC2 instances to call AWS services on our behalf. So that's what we want. And that's the permission that it gets. So this role allows the EC2 instance to access our S3 bucket. So create this role. Now we have this role in here. Now we can go back to our user group, to our Terraform, and then permissions. Now we create an inline permission in here, which allows users associated with this group to pass the role to the EC2 instance. Now we click on IAM. Actually, we need to click on IAM. And then we need to click on write. And in here, there is a policy that's called, or the action is called pass role. We click on this one, then it says grants permission to pass a role to a service. This is exactly what we want. We want to pass the permission to access our S3 bucket to the EC2 service. Now we need to be specific here. We want to be very specific. So this is resources in our account, and then we want to specify the S3 access to for EC2. So this is the role that we just created in the previous step, and in this step we specify that within our account the EC2 service should be passed this role S3 access for EC2 at ARIN. And then we need to give it a name, I think, eventually. Next. No, it's actually an inline role, so it doesn't need a name. Well, it does. So pass role. I need to click it again, I think. Here we go. And now we have the 3 policies that are needed to launch the service and have it get access to EC2, to S3 from EC2. That's the way. So we specify the S3 access in here for this particular user. If we use it offline with our like with a security token or like an access token and a secret. So and then we allow users that are part of this group to access EC2, and then we pass this role in here that says when an EC2 instance is created, we pass the role S3 access for EC2. Now the final step here is that we need to create a user. So we add a user and say CML Terraform, for example. hit next and add to group. We added to this group here. Hit next and create user. Now we have our user, and then we go in here and we go to security credentials. And as we can tell here, we inherited these permissions from the group. We go into security credentials and we create an access key. Yeah, that's basically standard fare here at this point in time. Now, what we want to do is we want to check out whether this works in EC2. Now, one way to do it is by going to EC2 directly and then going into launch an instance. Okay, let's launch an instance here. So we go in here, give it a name, demo, select whatever is in here, like the smallest available version. So we just choose the free tier here. That should be fine. We create a security group that allows SSH access in here. That should all be fine, but we need to go into here, like the advanced details here, and then we need to select the profile here. And this is where our role shows up. So this one it's basically the same thing as within our Terraform configuration. So now we can launch the instance. Oh, key pair, of course. We need to select the key pair that we've provided to EC2 so that it can inject this key pair into the EC2 instance for me to SSH into it. So go back to instances. There is another instance running already. So let's see if this is coming up quickly. Still pending. Let's go in here. We have an IP address. And then go here. Paste this in, SSH root add. Yes. And it will tell us that we need to log in with a specific user. I never can remember this. On Ubuntu, it's Ubuntu. On the AWS EC2 Linux instances, it's this user. And we're in. Now, what we can do is now we can say AWS config, and I think it's configure. There we go, configure list. And as I can see here, without me providing any access key or secret key or something, I have been provisioned with this username and with this secret key and with this access key by passing the role into this EC2 instance. So, and now with this role, we should also be able to do like AWS S3 list S3 my CML bucket. It's ls. And there we go. We see our file that we put into the CML bucket, and so that's basically the proof that the role assignment has worked within our user here. So that concludes the demo, and I hope that this clarifies up things how to create policies within AWS. Let me know if this helps, and if there's any comments or any things that you guys wanted to have explained in more detail, then please let me know in the comments. Thank you.